We are broadcasting on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitch. Welcome to the show. Today we have AirKit, and we have the CEO, Stephen, and also the CTO, Adam. Welcome to the show, guys.
I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And I have my co-host, co-producer, Carlos in Mexico City. I'm in Los Angeles. I think you guys are in Northern California. Please take a few minutes to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Right. So Stephen Hickian, born and raised near Palo Alto, California, and actually there right now, and co-founder, CEO of AirKit.
Great. And I'm Adam Evans, CTO of AirKit, also in Silicon Valley, in Palo Alto, California.
All right, welcome to the show. So tell us a little bit about AirKit. What is it? What does the company do? How did this come about?
So there's a long story here, but AirKit is a low-code platform designed for customer-obsessed teams. And the problem we want to solve is historically companies have had to scale with headcount versus technology, and we're trying to break that relationship. And I think it's a problem that's even being accentuated even today as we face the challenges with COVID-19.
So for the benefit of those who may not know, what is a low-code platform? What is that about?
Yeah, so for us, we're trying to empower individuals that know Excel, the ability to build customer-facing experiences with no code. So a lot of it's the ability to do drag and drop components to create end customer-facing experiences.
Interesting. So it kind of like, just to go back in time, dating myself here, it's like when what Windows did to DOS, basically, right? You didn't have to know all the codes and commands anymore. You can just drag and drop and operate. I'm oversimplifying it, I'm sure.
No, that's actually pretty close. It's much more visual. I mean, the drag and drop is a great metaphor, but the idea is that you want to make it. I mean, we like to say if you can do a VLOOKUP in an Excel sheet, you can build a customer engaging app in AirKit. So the idea is it's literally drag and drop and simplification around this idea of engaging with customers, building self-service experiences, and connecting them back to all kinds of different systems of record, like Salesforce, Zendesk, etc., all the biggest SaaS platforms out there, and enabling people that weren't developers to build these apps in hours and not days and weeks and months.
So if I have an idea without the need of a CTO or lead engineer, I could use something like this and be dangerously close to build something on my own. Am I oversimplifying that, or is that kind of the end goal, sort of?
That is the end goal. Maybe we'll work on something that you can help engage all of your audience after the live broadcast here.
All right.
And one of the reasons we started this company is just every company today wants to look and feel and create an experience that looks and feels like an Amazon experience. Effortless, right, frictionless, but not everybody has the ability to hire the best-in-class engineers of these companies. So how do we provide the same technology and enable the 99.9% of the companies out there to leverage and deliver the same type of experience for their customers?
I like it. It's a developer in a box. But let's go into the topic today. Again, I'm oversimplifying this for the audience, but Carlos, what's the topic today? Let's go right into it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tulio, and thanks for guests too. Today, we're going to be speaking delivering customer experience amidst COVID-19, or as our guests have put it, let's say that suppose that your CX, your customer experience team, is suddenly remote, right? How can we use technology to protect the customer experience? So that's kind of like the topic we're going to be talking about today. So first question for you guys, for our guests, is why did you choose this particular topic? You know, it might be unnecessary to ask this question, self-explanatory, but tell us, why did you choose this particular topic, delivering customer experience in the COVID age?
That's a great question. I think for us, what the last couple of weeks have shown is an acceleration of all the key trends of why we started AirKit in the first place 2+ years ago. And for us, when we kind of rewind the clock, we started AirKit based on the experiences we had starting a company called RelateIQ. It was a next generation intelligent CRM that we sold to Salesforce in 2014. And we spent 3 additional years at Salesforce building intelligent products on top of that platform. And again, the reason we started AirKit is we saw companies undergoing their digital transformation. And it's kind of a big loaded word that's been happening over the last decade plus. And every company has had to think about how to digitize, their back office systems, and that usually starts with a CRM. But the opportunity we saw was actually how to extend this transformative journey to the customer touch points, and finding ways of digitizing and enabling new types of experiences to connect with their customers. So when we started AirKit, the key themes were around the customer behavior were changing pretty rapidly. Everybody has a smartphone in their hands. They expect to have a digital experience with their brands, what we call kind of they're digital native, and they expect those effortless experiences. But it was very difficult for companies to deliver those experiences, and it required more and more engineering talent to do so. So the intent behind AirKit was to empower companies to build experiences their customers, like ourselves, would love, but it was very difficult at the moment. Now you fast forward to today, the urgency to deliver those types of experiences have only been accelerated. And I think one of the exciting things about the last couple of weeks has been the fact that we're being pulled into companies that are asking, how can we deliver experiences for the digital first consumer? And how do we do that in an environment where we don't have unlimited resources to engineers?
So I'm curious, what is your target customer base? Is it SMBs, large enterprises? Who's the sweet spot customer for you?
We're selling into insurance companies, banks, and what we call consumer services. These tend to be enterprise companies that have high transactional touch points with the end consumer. So specifically direct consumer businesses that are right now seeing a surge of volume, call and chat volume with their customer base. And they're thinking creatively how to drive more effortless and self-service experiences to these customers.
Okay, so let's just paint a scenario here, right? Before this pandemic, before everybody being at home, I went to the bank, I could have made a deposit, I could talk to someone about inquiring about some kind of account or fix a dispute, whatever it was that I could do in person, right? Probably could do that on the phone too, but there are certain things where traditionally the bank was like, you need to come in with that, we have to do that in person. So you can't do that now, right? So what would that transformation look like for, say, a bank that hasn't digitized that experience, the high touch in-person experience? What would that look like? What kind of a process would they go through, and how would you help to get them to a place where now they can essentially create a similar experience, but it's digital, it's remote? How does that work?
So I'll answer this. So the traditional way that companies have been moving forward with digital transformation is moving into apps on iOS and Android. These kind of native apps, you need big engineering teams to build. They tend to have all the features in kind of one big app that you can download from the store, and then you got to market them to get your customers to go download them, engage in them, keep them installed, not get logged out and not be able to engage with them. And that is inherently costly. It's also slow. How often can you push new features out? And when you think about COVID-19 and just this rapid onset, that's kind of compressing the transformation and kind of the requirements, because you can't go physically into that branch anymore. These kind of traditional tactics and building native apps are starting to kind of fail organizations. The speed and cost in which they can deploy kind of new interactions just isn't there. And so when you think about AirKit, one of the ideas that we kind of had from a long time ago was we don't want consumers to have to download an app to engage digitally with a brand. So we think about things that are just natively on the phone already with no change of behavior. Like, for example, calling in and speaking into a voice bot, or chatting into a chat bot, or being able to simply launch the browser that's already on their phone in an authenticated session that feels like a native app, but they can complete their business in the 60 seconds and move on with their life that they want. And it actually frees the companies to build these things, like we mentioned, with low code, so they can build them faster. And they can deploy them basically instantly and not have to worry about pushing, big apps to the store and having that kind of, go across all of the installs in the world and get their customers all trained up. So they can really react quickly and kind of go after the long tail of all those interactions that hadn't been digitized. And now COVID-19 is kind of forcing the hand where we need to move a little faster and customers' expectations haven't changed. If anything, they're accelerating in terms of their expectations of having ways to engage with brands in a digital self-service experience.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, so up to today, for the most part, digitization was really about, speaking to banks, for example, or insurance company, or any other very high-touch consumer businesses, consumer services companies. It's predominantly a way to offload the expectation on call centers or even foot traffic inside of a brick and mortar, right? I mean, ultimately, all these apps were designed to ease the demand on people, you know, to serve the public with either information, basic knowledge, or some transactions that they could do on their own. But is it safe to say it was never really completely designed to replace the in-person relationship, the in-person transaction? If I open an LLC and I want to open a business account, you can't do that remotely. You have to go in person. That obviously isn't the case now. So what I'm hearing is companies are now being forced to, we have to actually replace that face-to-face relationship we've relied on with something that is screen to screen. And they're not very well equipped to do that just yet. So they can get an army of people to jump on this, right, to solve it, or they can leverage an application or a platform like yours to leapfrog, to essentially use a machine to do some of the automation. What's built into that allows you to do that? Is there AI built into there? Are there models that you've taken from previous work? How does that work? Whereas essentially this platform replaces the need for 20 people doing this work, or does it replace them or enhances them? How does that work in that scenario?
So there are models that kind of, as far as AI, that help specifically around a lot of the chat and intent parsing. This is a lot of the chatbot type companies that are out there have solutions like this. However, it only goes so far. A lot of times that's just kind of what are they talking about and how can I route them as a customer's intent is coming inbound. Where we feel like the biggest gap and this is kind of where we've been building and investing in our R&D, is the connection to other SaaS products, where all the data is on these accounts, and kind of simple tools to logically play out what you want that customer's journey to be in terms of the interaction. So it's not purely an automation where you drop a machine and it solves your problems. If anybody's selling you that it's just going to work, I'd say tread carefully, or at least pilot it for a while. But we think about this as it's not rocket science getting in there, but you need to enable developers to be more productive. So you kind of said there's a team of 10 or 100 people that might have built that before. We think can we make a tool that maybe one person can be like 10 developers now and move that much faster in terms of kind of assembling the parts and saying, here's what I want the return order flow to be, or here's how I want to capture payments in a PCI compliant way, and make that able to be deployed in minutes. We think that's kind of the solution. So it's enabling more people to be more productive and build these experiences faster and get them in the hands of their customers with zero prerequisites, and not changing the consumer's behavior from just chatting, calling, or basically clicking on links on their phone like they do every day. And so things that like we're seeing also, and Steve, maybe you could speak a little bit about just the increase in call volume that we've been hearing from some of our customers, and some of the examples in terms of what deflection and other kinds of new enablement that we've been able to have.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously, you see a surge in call volume today as there's customers kind of wanting to understand the status and updates in the last 2 weeks. So companies have been inundated. And again, going back to this intent of AirKit is to break the relationship of adding, you have more and more customers, you have to add more and more headcount in your contact center. It's like, how do you break that relationship? And we're trying to use technology to do that. And the other component here is companies that have a lot of data on their customers, it's kind of locked away. They want to start unlocking that data to create more proactive and personalized experiences. And partly what Adam's talking about here is almost the unbundling of the native app. Instead of having one monolithic app on your phone, you can now create these single purpose experiences that can be proactively triggered through AirKit to engage the customer at the right moment, the right time. So almost prevent the customer from having to call you in the first place.
Interesting. So essentially, as a CMO, you're giving me the power of the CTO in my hands. Is that a good description of what I could do with this?
That's one description we can do with this for sure. And again, like what we like to say is there's not one use case we're solving for. There's a general technology we've built that can be applied to sales, marketing, and service, and even internal operation use cases. And again, I think we kind of reference chatbots as one kind of means of solving one specific problem. What we're finding is actually there's dozens of examples that you go into a bank or insurance company where they want to modernize that end customer touch point. But the challenge is it's not what the solution should be, but it's how to do it. You don't have dedicated engineers to build this, and you're constantly being told to do more with less. So this is a tool for any team that's focused explicitly on the end customer experience, how to build those with your own resources and deploy them in hours versus having to wait months or even years to get it deployed with your internal engineering teams.
There are a lot of agencies that do customer experience journey. They offer that as a service, right? There's feasibility studies. They're doing, analyze information, come up with strategy, develop a plan, deploy those plans. How does this replace that, or this enhances that? Is this complementary? How does that come together with those companies that people are used to engaging?
Enhances it. I mean, this is just a faster. It's just a new tool that lets you be 100 times more productive as far as deploying a solution. So you can spend more time kind of thinking about what the experience you want to create from your customer is, and less time in kind of the engineering and implementation phases of the project. And because it's also so much faster, you can treat it as an iterative process too. So you can incorporate feedback much faster, and it really just kind of changes the game. So whether you're training up to do it yourself with a fraction of the resource footprint that you had before to build things internally, or you're working with some kind of an agency, either way, it enhances whatever your status quo was before. One thing I know we're talking a lot about, the rapid deployment and things with COVID that have changed kind of inbound call centers, and really kind of what you think about that is like more calls are coming into contact centers because the lack of kind of the solving the long tail of problems with self-service. The apps that are out there that have been built haven't been able to solve all the problems. And so when you kind of have this physical process kind of shut down, where does that go to? Where all those interactions get kind of pushed off to? And it's basically heating up the contact centers. And so you get these long wait times and all this kind of change. And so this is, it's kind of exposing some of the cracks in terms of what workflows maybe weren't digitized, and where that opportunity is in a very acute sense. What was it? It was an interesting quote from Warren Buffett that basically said, when the tide goes out, you see who was swimming naked. Meaning you kind of get exposed when in a moment like right now when COVID and things are getting forced to move into digital interactions, the tide is going out, and you see where all of the kind of transactional interactions with your customer are being exposed in terms of your efforts for digital transformation. So we would argue right now is a very important kind of moment where people have that realization. But I think what's probably more lasting is what happens after this. If you really ask the question, I'm a parent, I've got young kids, and I look around at all the other parents here, we're all learning how to do teleschool, and we're all learning how to do telemedicine, and and everybody's learning how to do video conferencing. And if you kind of think about what's kind of happening, over the next months of this, is we're having a compression in terms of the collective education of how to use these digital tools to interact with each other, interact with everything from organizations like school to the brands and organizations that we do business with. And so coming out of this, not only is this an acute moment where we're exposing those kind of cracks and the vulnerabilities and finding out where the system kind of breaks down, but it's not going to be that temporary. The expectation of the consumer will permanently change, and they will be more digitally savvy, and it creates a longer term opportunity for brands to really create new ways to engage with their customers.
It sounds like we've just undergone a major disruption, and it wasn't some technology company that created it. It was a virus. And to your point, there are a lot of people realizing there's so much they can do from home and remotely that it is going to change the way we live. Absolutely, we'll do that. Carlos, I think you had a question you wanted to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was thinking that with all the situation that we're all living nowadays, I'm talking about the COVID-19 situation and everything that's driven and caused by it. My question would be, I see there are a lot of companies out there, technology companies, trying to kind of shift gears a little bit and create new products and have new initiatives. So in that sense, it could be an opportunity for a lot of tech companies and SaaS products. But then again, because of the increased abundance of possibilities and tools on the offer itself, how would you say that AirKit stacks up against any tool that might be similar in nature or that might serve similar purposes? What would you tell our audience to look for in AirKit that is not existent or that is a benefit for the audience or for the user?
So I'm going to start with that. I think historically, as people think about investing in channels to connect with their customers, they've thought about it in almost like silos. They think about investing in a voice solution through like a contact center tool. They think about investing in a chat solution, whether it be a chatbot or two-way text. And then they think about building any kind of web capabilities through a website or native apps. And I think as you think about AirKit, we're consolidating the spend and capabilities of all three of those distinct channels onto one platform. So if you're a CIO or somebody leading the digital transformation of your business, what we're seeing is actually consolidation onto single platforms. So you can do voice, chat, and web all in one ecosystem.
Thank you so much.
One thing I would just add on to that is it's real. It exists. You can go to our website, airkit.com, and actually do a live demo right now without signing up to kind of experience the product. So I'd encourage everybody to do that. And I know we may have live questions coming in, so please go to the website, or maybe you could do it in the background. And if you have any questions, we'll do our best to answer it live, or come and talk to us through our website afterwards as well. But it's available. You can deploy things in minutes, and it works, as Steve mentioned, it works multi-channel. So as a consumer, the idea that if I'm talking to somebody on the phone, or if I'm talking to somebody in a chat, or if I'm on a website, that these things don't share context for me is something that all the consumers understand, because we've been trained that way, because it's a constraint. We think about it as all of these are just channels to start having interaction with the customer, and the way that we built our low-code platform is letting you kind of seamlessly have a journey across all of those channels. So if you start deflecting a call, your contact center is overwhelmed right now, we can help deflect that. We've seen a 30% reduction in contact rates from people that have deployed this. There's a car sharing service called Turo, a company called Turo, and we've seen 30% plus reduction in terms of tickets coming there due to self-service. And we've also seen it in terms of actually driving traffic for people that are not able to talk on the phone for difficult process too, where we can actually do drip campaigns and text them to actually get them back, picking time slots to talk to an agent when they're when they're available, and smoothing out kind of the demand curve in an automatic way. And we've deployed that at a Fortune 50 company in insurance, and we've seen over 140% increase in revenue due to the ability to connect actually with customers when people were just declining phone calls, in this world of spam and all of these things as well. So this is available live right now, and you can check it out on our website, airkit.com, and just experience it yourself, free of charge with no sign up on the website right now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So Instacart, if you're listening, sign up right now, because you guys need this right now. It's impossible to reach them right now. So I think you make an interesting point. I go back 25 years ago, video conferencing and collaborating between offices required like months of planning and equipment, very costly internet access. I mean, it was a whole, drawn out effort, lots of money, millions of dollars. I remember I had Viacom as a client, setting up studios between Los Angeles and New York for MTV and VH1, and it was a huge initiative. Right now, in an instant, you could just fire up your phone and be on a video call, and you can have collaborative tools. And I think what I'm hearing is that there is a traditional sense like, oh man, that's going to require so much work. The concept of transformation, the word transformation means this is going to be a 2-year long process. And maybe some companies have shied away from it because they think digital transformation is such a big initiative. But what I'm hearing is there's tools that you can do this pretty quickly, right? You could actually start on a process of having something in place within a week, possibly even in days. And so, we're coming up on time. Any words of advice for any of those organizations that have been sitting on the fence about this, that are overcomplicating how it needs to happen? What can they do besides contacting you? What can they do in terms of being smart to plan out and figure out what is it that they need to digitize? Obviously, your tool will help deploy, but how do they figure out where do we need to apply this? What can they do to do some homework to prepare themselves to be more effective?
That's a great question. I think the number one thing is just look at the data. Like, number one, what are the contact drivers of why people reach out and call your contact centers or chat with you? So just uncovering that information will help lead you to in terms of how to prioritize what to digitize. And we're actually finding one of the top use cases right now, especially as these contact centers have moved to remote working, is things around PCI compliance. How do you capture payments in a very compliant manner? We actually have a webinar on that on this Thursday at 10 a.m. to discuss that. But I think number one, how do you make sure you keep your customer data secure and compliant, and then keep driving these effortless experiences that your customers will want to stick around and continue to engage their brand long term.
That sounds like good advice. See where you're hurting the most and go address that first. That sounds pretty straightforward, pretty simple. This journey of yours, building this business, you've built businesses before, you've exited them. What's the journey been like for you? How long have you guys been at this now?
Started this in late 2017, and we're fortunate, and I've kind of mentioned, I've had the pleasure of working with Adam for almost a decade now, and then a lot of members of our team for almost 7+ years. So this journey has been highly rewarding. We are building something that, our goal here would be 15 years from now, we're sitting around the campfire and reminiscing what an amazing experience it was to build a highly disruptive business to help redefine how consumers like ourselves will engage with the brands of tomorrow.
So you've been at this about 3 years, and how do you keep your team engaged? Let's talk a little bit about your culture. We have a few minutes left. How do you keep your team engaged and excited? What are some of the things that have worked for you guys?
Yeah, okay, jump like 1 minute in here, and Adam, I'll let you jump here as well. I think it starts with acting in accordance with your values. I think it's really important to, as a business today, having core values that you're consistent with. And for us, it starts with 4 key words: team, impact, moments, and excellence. 4 very trite words, but what they mean to us are very special. The foundation of our business is the team, and we're looking for people that buy into that. And even more so today than ever before, it's like, how do you get a group of people that are buy in, and there's no egos, and there's a lot of humility and gratitude at this moment of time. Second, and again, it's so important today, is believing you're making an impact, building a company that can actually make an outsized impact on the community around us. And for us, we're actually thinking we're redefining the way that consumers will interact with brands in these very difficult times. And moments, when you build a company, it's an emotional roller coaster. You got to make sure it's you enjoyed the small wins along the way. And one way we do that is actually we used to take a physical team picture every week in the office, and we continue that with a digital picture with a grid of photos and Zoom that we capture each week. And the final one is excellence. Everyone wants to believe that they want to bring their best effort to work, and we strive to always perform and hit a bar that we may never achieve, but that bar is excellence for how we build products, how we treat our customers, and how we treat each other.
The only thing I would add on is, as far as your question about how to keep people motivated, we had the distinct pleasure of being able to work with a group of exceptional individuals that are all oriented and motivated to move forward. And Steve and I, we've always really enjoyed being physically connected with the team in our office, and we do all kinds of weekly rituals and kind of fun stuff to build culture, and that's been a tactic for many years. And then COVID comes around, and AirKit, just like every other company, is going through these moments, and we look at this and say, this is a new skill, this is a change, we need to embrace change, and instead of trying to pull away from it, this is an opportunity to invest into this and trust ourselves. And I think that we've seen people absolutely be very productive. The communication's excellent, and we're a small company, and we've gone through that very quickly, and that's great. But I think that is almost symbolic of what we would hope many companies, even though this is kind of a hard time and things are changing, have that same mentality coming out of this. How can we transform ourselves? Is now the time to be making investments in the future? And this is, although a strange moment, a moment potentially of great opportunity.
Very good words of wisdom there. Look, I got to tell you, this moment in time is showing companies whether they treat their employees like adults or not. Okay?
Exactly.
The companies that have been treating their employees like adults, no problem moving remotely, no issues with performance. It's seamless. It's happened instantly because there's respect. You're not treating people like children. You're treating them like adults, right? There's this mutual accountability that's agreed upon, that's in place. And a lot of the organizations that don't do that, that are very command and control, that don't show that kind of adult to adult relationship, where it's more like a parent-child relationship, are struggling through this change. And it's going to be a wake-up call for many of those organizations to realize that in order to be effective remotely, you actually have to create a culture where people feel like they're part of a team. They're not being told what to do, how to do things, but they're being supported to be part of a team. It's been wonderful to have you. Thank you for sharing your product and your platform. I hope a lot of companies are sitting on the fence take advantage of this. You could have your digital strategy in place in less than a week with this platform. So check it out. And thanks for sharing with us your story about your culture and what's working for you. We appreciate you having us, and thank you for joining us again.
Thank you very much,
Carlos.
Next time, one more thing, Tulio. Don't forget that we need to make a little quick announcement, right, about next week.
Yes.
Absolutely. So next week we're going to be having here on Dojo Live, we're going to be speaking with Sergey Borysyuk. I hope I got that right. Sergey Borysyuk, the founder and CTO of PandaDoc. PandaDoc is a sales and marketing automation platform. I don't have the topic yet. The guest hasn't sent it over to me, but it should be interesting. Again, he's the founder and CTO of PandaDoc, Sergey Borysyuk. Stay tuned for that, and for the info that's going to be right there on the Dojo Live website, folks. Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific. Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, PandaDoc. Thank you. See you next time.
Cheers.
Thank you.